Okay, hello, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Law Entrance YouTube channel. We are back with another Hindu analysis. Today is 4th of September. It's a lovely Wednesday afternoon. How many of you are here with me today? Give me a response in the chat box very quickly. Good afternoon, Gauravi. Good afternoon, Anika. Okay, let's wait for a few more people to join in and then we shall start our analysis for the day. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Alia. I'll quickly share the link of our session in our groups as well. We're starting in just 1 minute, guys. Okay, Parv is here, Advika is here, Pushkar is here. Good afternoon, everyone. Very good afternoon. We are back with another Hindu analysis session. And I'm your host, Govind Singh, your faculty for GK, Logical and English. ठीक है जी चलो I hope everyone can hear me clearly, everyone can see the screen. If yes, quickly give me a yes in the chat box if I'm audible, visible, and the presentation is also visible. A quick yes in the chat box from everyone. Okay. All right, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's start today's analysis. The first topic which we have is regarding the Bengal bill, the West Bengal bill, and the death penalty provision, which they have tabled and now it's waiting governor's approval. We'll see what are the changes in the criminal laws, what is the bill all about, what are they proposing, and what are its implications as well. So we'll understand this topic in a bit detail. Then we have an editorial article which is talking about AI governance. It talks about the dominance of US and China in the AI landscape and how India needs to step up and voice its opinion not just for itself but also for the global south. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we have an article about income inequality, how we can address income inequality, what are the multiple ways in which we can counter income inequality, and what is the current scenario, what is the future. Then we have a fourth topic which is related to defense proposal. So a defense proposal has been approved by the Defense Acquisition Council, the DAC. We'll look at the proposal and what is the approval. And lastly, we have a topic on corporate tax and wages. How corporate tax have an implication on wages. Is it a negative implication or a positive consequence? We'll look at that and then we'll do a little bit of vocabulary. So that's the agenda for the day. If you all are ready to start, if you all are excited to start, quickly give me a ready in the chat box and then we shall start the class. A ready in the chat box very quickly. Ready, ready, ready in the chat box. Okay, everyone is ready. क्या बात है? Wonderful. Let's start the session. Let's start the analysis. So the first topic for the day, guys, is Bengal bill and death penalty. Now, Bengal bill moots capital punishment for repeats. What is moots? Moots means plans to execute or debates or discusses. That is what means by moots. You also have moot court competition in law schools where you debate from both the sides. Anyway, coming back. So, what is capital punishment? Capital punishment simply means death penalty. In India, death penalty is mostly given by hanging the person who has committed the crime. Now, what are the provisions which they seek to amend? What are the new penalties which they want to bring in? Let's go to the newspaper and check that out. I'll share the newspaper with you. I hope the newspaper is visible to all of you. Okay. So this is the front page article. Introducing death penalty for rape. The bill seeks to amend the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and the POCSO Act. What's the POCSO Act? Prevention of sexual offences for children, right? Okay, now BNS sections. Now IPC has been repealed, and BNS has come into force since July. So we need to know the BNS sections for all these criminal offences which have been amended. So these become important to remember. These five offences. The new punishment now is 10 years. That makes the punishment in BNS is written here, and the new proposed punishment in the Bengal bill is written here. So earlier the existing punishment is 10 years rigorous imprisonment. RI means rigorous imprisonment that may extend to life and fine. And proposal is rigorous imprisonment for life or death. If the rape by police officer or public servant, then again for life or and fine or death. In rape that causes death or persistent vegetative state, then the proposal is death penalty. What is a vegetative state? Vegetative state is when a person is sort of a very prolonged coma. A person cannot process things. A person has no hope to come back to life. He's not dead, but he's also not alive. That is a vegetative state. The person has become like a vegetable essentially. So then you have gang rape. The proposal is rigorous imprisonment for life or death, and repeat offenders rigorous imprisonment for life or death. So basically, they have aggravated the punishment for all of these offenses, these five offenses, and they have passed a proposal. They have passed a bill with unanimity from all the MLAs. Most of the MLAs from TMC and BJP participated, and they have agreed to table this particular bill. Now, this bill, if gets the governor's assent, it would become a law, and it would become implemented in the state. Now we need to understand that what are the implications for this particular bill. Is this a good move or a bad move? You guys tell me. Do you think this is the good move or a bad move? Also, you need to remember the name of the bill as well. The name of the bill is Aparajita Women and Child Bill. I'll write it down for you. Aparajita Women and Child Bill. So this is the bill which seeks to do these five amendments. Do you think this is a good move or a bad move? Okay, Alia says good. What about others? This also has multiple other provisions. For example, they also have proposed the probe in such cases to be concluded within 21 days of the initial complaint. So if a complaint is made today, all the probe and all the research regarding the case has to be concluded within 21 days. All the investigation has to be concluded within 21 days. Okay, we have three responses. Gorvi says good, Sony says good. All right. What about others? Good or bad? Pradipta says requires review on the said punishment directly given to the accused. Okay. Sarvesh says good. All right. So as students of law, we won't jump to conclusions on whether this is good or bad without understanding both the aspects of the situation. We would understand how that penalty can be a good thing in this particular case, or that penalty can be a bad move or probably not the best move in this particular case. So when we talk about it being a good move, you obviously talk about justice to the victim. You talk about future deterrence to further offenders who would be deterred to commit such heinous crimes. They would have a fear of law in mind that if I commit this particular crime, I would face the death penalty. So it would possibly curb the crime. But there are multiple other aspects to it as well. Other aspects, as in people who are advocates of fundamental rights and human rights say that this is a violation of a person's fundamental and human rights. You cannot take away a person's life because you cannot give it. You do not have the right to take away someone's life as well. They say that it's also a violation of Article 21. They say that although reasonable restriction is allowed, but death penalty is a very adverse move. It's a very strong and very harsh move, and it should not be there. It's a human rights violation. And they also propagate that the person should be given a chance to reform. एक इंसान को सुधरने का मौका भी देना चाहिए. So that is the argument from the other end, that there is no opportunity to reform if the person is given a death penalty. Whereas the other side says that if a person is committing such a heinous crime, he possibly has no scope of reformation. Other aspects which you need to look at when it comes to reformation of this penalty is this would also make death penalty normalized for other crimes. Already talks are there to include death penalty for multiple types of crimes. Recently, UP government tabled a bill where they talked about death penalty or life imprisonment for sedition if someone speaks up against the government. So this would then become a norm. While all of the developed countries and other countries in the world are moving away from death penalty, we are moving towards death penalty. So that can probably not be a step in the right direction. That death penalty is becoming a norm for most of the crimes. The Supreme Court currently says that death penalty is given only in very heinous crimes and serious cases, rare cases. But we should not normalize death penalty as a punishment for all crimes. Another thing which becomes important when it's talked about death penalty is the possibility of fake cases. If there is such swift justice, if you are saying that 21 days my investigation would be completed and death penalty would be awarded, the possibility of fake cases can definitely rise. If a person is trapped in a fake case, then he would just probably be executed after a 20 days inquiry or 20 days probe. And then if later it's found out that the person was not guilty, then you cannot do anything about it. You cannot bring the person back to life, right? So that is also an aspect which you need to look at. Another thing which most of us do not look at when it comes to the debate regarding capital punishment and death penalty is, why do people demand death penalty for victims? Why is there such a huge outburst and hue and cry when a heinous crime or when a serious crime or when a crime like the Kolkata case happens? Why is there such a outburst in the public? One, because it shakes the social fabric. It shows the state of security, which is very pathetic in the country. Women's safety, to be specific. Secondly, it also tells us about the trust in the judicial system, the trust in the police system, how people do not trust the judicial system to serve justice in a speedy and timely manner. अगर लोगों को justice मिल रहा होता, अगर victims को justice मिल रहा होता, तो obviously people would not be talking about death penalty. अगर initially ही जुडिशरी प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच लेगी, इनिशियली ही पुलिस एक प्रोएक्टिव अप्रोच लेगी एंड जल्दी से अपना काम एफिशिएंटली कंप्लीट करेगी, सेम फॉर पुलिस, सेम फॉर जुडिशरी, देन प्रोबेबली द डिमांड फॉर डेथ पेनल्टी और द नीड फॉर डेथ पेनल्टी वुड पॉसिबली कम डाउन. So this is another aspect which you look at it from a societal point of view, from a practical point of view. So these are multiple things which you try to understand when it comes to the question of capital punishment and death penalty. Let's see if this bill becomes an act or not. That is something which we'll look at. But for now, you need to keep all of these things in mind. You need to understand all of the aspects, both the sides of the coin, to have a good grasp of the issue. Mukti is saying, where is this article? This is the headline in the Hindu newspaper, first page article. Okay, let's move on to Priyanshi saying to not let it become a further threat to the society. Yes, delay in justice, yes. Imprisonment, something like this in news, life imprisonment of accused would lead not to just rape but murder itself. Yes, that is also another important point which we discussed in our previous discussion regarding capital punishment, that it would increase the rates of murder for victims. So if a person would know that if I am caught, then I would be given death sentence, I would be given फांसी, तो वो victim को जिंदा ही नहीं छोड़ेगा, वो victim को वहीं खत्म कर देगा. So that would also increase the murder cases. That is one very important aspect. ठीक है, चलो आगे चलते हैं. Let's discuss the next topic. The next topic is an editorial article regarding discourse on AI governance that India must shape. Now, why must India shape an artificial intelligence related discourse? Discourse is basically discussion. एंड यहाँ पे आर्टिकल में क्या बात हो रही है, मैं आपको थोड़ा सा जेस्ट देता हूँ इस आर्टिकल की. ये आर्टिकल कह रहा है कि यूएस एंड चाइना, जो अभी काफ़ी बड़े सुपर पावर्स हैं, दे आर ट्राइंग टू विन द एआई रेस एज वेल. दे आर ट्राइंग टू एस्टैब्लिश देमसेल्व्स एज द supreme leaders of the artificial intelligence space. And India needs to do something to establish its own position, to further its own values and its own development. Not just its own, but also take forward the voices of the global south, of the Southeast Asian countries, South Asian countries. US and China सिर्फ अपना interest further कर रहे हैं. They are not concerned with taking the world forward together. They just want to become supremacist in terms of AI, just like it happened when the nuclear race started. Countries like US, Russia, China, they all wanted to be on the forefront. They all wanted to develop weapons. And when they had done that, they did not want others to succeed. They did not want others to do all these nuclear tests. Be it your space race, be it your nuclear race, all of these countries, US, China, Russia, they all want to be on the forefront. They all want to control all the narrative, the global narrative, and do not want other countries to have a say in how things operate, how international governance around artificial intelligence would operate. आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट क्यों है, ये हम सबको पता ही है. हाउ द रोल ऑफ एआई इज इंक्रीजिंग डे बाय डे इन डिफरेंट डोमेन्स, इन डिफरेंट फील्ड्स. इट हैज बोथ इट्स पॉजिटिव implications and negative implications. There are positive use cases of AI, there are negative use cases of AI. Positive हम सबको पता ही है कि it helps a lot in processing data, it helps a lot in understanding different domains, it helps a lot in reducing the time taken to complete mechanical and mundane tasks, which AI can do with ease. It can help you a lot in defense sector, it can help you a lot in logistics, it can help you a lot in governance, it can help you in n number of ways. That potential is limitless. But when it comes to the negative sides, that is a little less talked about. What are the negative consequences of AI? Can any one of you tell me AI के नुकसान क्या क्या हैं? What are the downsides of AI? And if AI comes in the wrong hands, what possibly can go wrong? What do you guys think? Security issue, absolutely. Can be misused in what ways is what I am asking. How can AI be misused? Too much dependence on AI reduces creativity and efficiency of humans. Okay. That's more of a micro reason on an individual level. I'm asking more on a global level. The imagination of people is lost. Okay. What else? Anything else? Addiction. Addiction in what sense? Pradipta is saying further reduction of jobs in various sectors. That is inevitable. That cannot be prevented. That's going to happen one way or the other as AI progresses. But yes, it's definitely a downside for some countries, not for some. Have you heard of this word? Yes or no? Deep fake. Do you guys know what this is? Things like deep fake, things like fake news, things like cyber warfare, things like IPR violations, things like data breach, things like ethical concerns. चलो बात करते हैं थोड़ी सी इस बारे में, इंटरेस्टिंग है ये. फेक न्यूज़ हो गया, डीप फेक्स हो गया, आपका साइबर वॉरफेयर हो गया, आपका डेटा ब्रीच हो गया, आपके एथिकल कंसर्न्स हो गए. बहुत सारे डाउनसाइड्स हैं एआई के. एआई पे अगर कंट्रोल हो गया कुछ दो तीन कंट्रीज का, रमेश इज सेइंग सर इज इनफ फॉर करंट अफेयर्स. या आप क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो या मेरी तारीफ कर रहे हो, मुझे समझ नहीं आया, बट ठीक है. AI generated deep fakes used to scam people, fake videos with the help of AI. AI is made to match human intelligence. Microsoft had an AI assistant so that people can teach it its intelligence. However, they taught wrong things to it, which could be wrong for. Absolutely, AI can be trained in a very wrong way as well. ठीक है, AI को तो आप डेटा सेट दे दो, वो उस डेटा सेट पे ऑपरेट करेगा. Pradipta is saying had been used in Lok Sabha elections to in order to portray party leaders. अब ये तो पॉलिटिकल स्टेटमेंट है, मुझे नहीं पता कितना सच है कितना गलत है, बट yes, there is the potential to use it to topple governments, to create instability. काफ़ी एक्यूजेशन लगते हैं कंट्रीज पे कि दे आर यूजिंग आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस टू डिस्टेबलाइज गवर्नमेंट्स। ठीक है, तो ये इश्यूज हो गए, जैसे डीप फेक हो गया, आप लोगों ने बताया क्या होता है, साइबर वॉरफेयर हो गया, लॉन्चिंग साइबर अटैक्स, डेटा ब्रीचेस हो गए। उसके अलावा एथिकल कंसर्न्स वही हो गए कि आप एआई को क्या बता रहे हो, व्हाट इज द एआई बीइंग ट्रेन्ड फॉर, इफ द एआई इज बीइंग ट्रेन्ड फॉर डिस्ट्रक्शन, if the AI is being trained for discrimination, if the AI is being trained for security breach, if the AI is being trained for privacy breach, it would just keep getting better at it, and it would work in this direction rather than working in a positive direction. It all depends on how you train the AI. AI is what? AI is basically a LLM. What is an LLM? This is not the law wala LLM. It's a language learning model which works on data sets. करेक्ट। तो अब इंडिया को इसमें आगे बढ़ने की ज़रूरत है। अभी आगे चल के एक समिट होने वाली है सितंबर में, एआई से रिलेटेड समिट होने वाली है, विच यूएन वुड बी होस्टिंग, एंड इंडिया इज गोइंग टू पार्टिसिपेट इन दैट, एंड इंडिया नीड्स टू एक्सप्रेस इट्स ओपिनियन, एक्सप्रेस द ओपिनियन ऑफ द ग्लोबल साउथ इन दैट पर्टिकुलर समिट। काफ़ी सारे इस पर रिलेटेड इनिशिएटिव्स भी हैं इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे। देयर इज एन इनिशिएटिव कॉल्ड जीडीसी। डू यू गाइस नो व्हाट इज जीडीसी? आर यू अवेयर व्हाट इज द जीडीसी? Any idea? What is GDC? No one? No one is aware कि इंटरनेशनल फ्रंट पे क्या हो रहा है एआई में? ग्लोबल डिजिटल कॉम्पैक्ट, कंचन ने मुझे बता दिया, सही जवाब, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट। तो ग्लोबल डिजिटल कॉम्पैक्ट एक इनिशिएटिव है जिसमें ये लोग कह रहे हैं कि हमें एआई से रिलेटेड कुछ इंटरनेशनल नॉर्म्स एंड गाइडलाइंस सेट करने पड़ेंगे फॉर अ सेफ डिजिटल स्पेस, so that a digital space can be created which is safe, which is in compliance with your international rights, your fundamental rights, your values. So that is what GDC is around. Now US and China have also developed their own initiatives, their own guidelines, their own resolutions when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence, and both of these resolutions have been adopted by the United Nations. तो इस आर्टिकल में देखते हैं क्या बात हुई है, आर्टिकल बताएगा हमें सारा कुछ। लेट्स सी। The summit of the future will be a decisive moment for global diplomacy and international norm building process in the sphere of AI. At the summit, world leaders and stakeholders are to come together under the aegis of UN to advance the GDC. The GDC aims to build a collaborative multi-stakeholder framework that strives to address the digital divide, advance sustainable development goals, and create a secure and inclusive digital environment. Crucially, it seeks to strengthen the international governance of emerging technologies, including AI. As technologies continue to shape our society, it is imperative for India to not only engage with it but also actively shape the international discourse on the international governance of AI. अब इसका जियोपॉलिटिकल कॉन्टेस्टेशन क्या है? यूएनजीए, यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली ने 2 रेजोल्यूशन अडॉप्ट किए एआई पे। वन इज लेड बाय यूएस, वन इज लेड बाय चाइना। यूएस लेड वाला जो रेजोल्यूशन है उसका नाम है सेफ, सिक्योर एंड ट्रस्टवर्दी एआई फॉर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट। तो ये भी वही बात कर रहा है कि हाउ वी कैन डेवलप एथिकल प्रिंसिपल्स एंड डेटा प्रोटेक्शन मेजर्स एंड ट्रांसपेरेंसी and a harmonized approach. On the other hand, China led जो resolution है उसका नाम है enhancing cooperation on capacity building for AI. ये किस पे फोकस कर रहा है? ये equitable benefit of AI पे फोकस कर रहा है, digital divide कम करने पे फोकस कर रहा है, discrimination कम करने पे फोकस कर रहा है, and resolution prioritizes inclusivity and equitable development, but also strategically positions China as an important player in global trade. तो ऑब्वियसली अगर ये दोनों रेजोल्यूशंस इन दोनों कंट्रीज ने डिजाइन किए हैं तो अपने बेस्ट इंटरेस्ट को ध्यान में रख के डिजाइन किए होंगे। इंडिया को क्या करना चाहिए? इंडिया को अपने बेस्ट इंटरेस्ट में रख के एक रेजोल्यूशन डिजाइन करना चाहिए, एंड नॉट जस्ट अपने बट ऑल्सो ग्लोबल साउथ के इंटरेस्ट को भी। यूएन इज क्विकली इमर्जिंग एज एन एपेक्स फोरम फॉर शेपिंग एंड हार्मोनाइजिंग ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन एआई. यूएन ऑफर्स इंक्लूसिव प्लेटफॉर्म टू आर्टिकुलेट चैलेंजेस. UN has strategic engagements at G20 and global partnership on artificial intelligence. इंडिया का उसमें important role रहा है. India can therefore seize the opportunity to ensure that GDC aligns with its developmental priorities and ethical standards and bridges the global digital divide, meaningfully commits to the interest of the global south, जो मैं आपको बता रहा था। ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे ये बता रहे हैं कि इंडिया ने इससे पहले किस तरीके से डिस्कोर्स को लीड किया है व्हेन इट कम्स टू क्लाइमेट चेंज। यहाँ पे ये आपको बताएंगे यूएनजीए रेजोल्यूशन and how we talked about CBDR. What was CBDR? Common but differentiated responsibility. इसका हमने डिस्कशन काफी बार किया है कि हर कंट्री की कॉमन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है टुवर्ड्स क्लाइमेट चेंज, टुवर्ड्स कार्बन एमिशंस, बट क्या हर कंट्री की सेम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है? नहीं, द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इज कॉमन बट इट्स डिफरेंशिएटेड. यूएस जो है उसकी ज्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, इट्स अ डेवलप्ड कंट्री, उसका कार्बन एमिशन वो ऑलरेडी बहुत सारा कर चुका है, तो उसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ज्यादा है. डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज की थोड़ी कम है when it comes to reducing carbon emission and climate change. तो ये सारी Kyoto Protocol, climate change की बात हो रही है. How India has led this particular discussion. And India का diplomatic weight क्या है? India created the Green Group Alliance comprising 72 like-minded developing countries at the first conference of parties, which is your COP summit जो होती है आपकी, जो अभी आगे चल के होने वाली है. And कैसे इंडिया ने ग्रुप बनाया ब्राज़ील, साउथ अफ्रीका एंड चाइना के साथ टू फॉर्म द बेसिक ग्रुप टू रिड्यूस पॉवर्टी रिलेटेड ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. तो ये बेसिकली एग्जांपल्स दे रहे हैं कि कैसे इंडिया लीड करता आया है ग्लोबल साउथ के पॉलिसीज को, ग्लोबल साउथ के डिस्कोर्स को, एंड कैसे हमें फिर से वही चीज करने की जरूरत है. ठीक है, let's look at what else the article is telling us. Again, this is all about global south and India leading it. India should push for more equitable access to AI technology, building technical capacity and creating institutional mechanism that can harness the benefit of AI, and do it also for the global south. And India should advocate for a more comprehensive and inclusive approach to AI, where that respects human rights, aligns with existing international laws. Same cheez boli ja rahi hai. Addressing the challenges. India's advocacy for a fair and inclusive AI governance is also crucial in the context of bipolar dynamics between US and China. Bipolar मतलब इसके दो पोल्स बन गए कि एक पोल हो गया US, एक पोल हो गया चाइना, एंड ये दोनों सिर्फ अपने अराउंड ही पूरी AI गवर्नेंस को कंट्रोल करना चाह रहे हैं. And the risk sidelining the unique needs and perspective of global south are ignored. ठीक है, ग्लोबल साउथ की यूनिक नीड्स हैं वो एड्रेस नहीं हो रही. गैप्स बिटवीन डेवलप्ड एंड डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज आर स्टार्कली एविडेंट इन द realm of AI. Where developed countries have readily available resources, developing countries even lack basic infrastructure, internet access and electricity. तो फिर वो AI में डेवलपमेंट कैसे ही करेंगे? This can result in policies and frameworks that fail to address the root issues faced by developing countries and exacerbate existing inequalities. India's historical legacy of advocating interests of global south, robust engagement, सेम बात, बार सेम बात है. ठीक है, तो बेसिकली यही है कि इंडिया को ग्लोबल साउथ की पूरी ओपिनियन को वॉइस करना है अगली वाली समिट में, एंड एआई गवर्नेंस में पार्टिसिपेट करना है. दैट इज दैट्स द आर्टिकल ऑल अबाउट. ठीक है जी, चलो लेट्स मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल. ऑल्सो अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग आर्टिकल. इट इज रिगार्डिंग इनकम इनइक्वालिटी. नाउ इनकम इनइक्वालिटी के बारे में हम सबको पता ही है कि इंडिया में कितनी ज़्यादा इनकम इनइक्वालिटी है, कितनी ज़्यादा गैप है, कितनी ज़्यादा डिवाइड है बिटवीन द रिच एंड द पुअर. एंड दिस आर्टिकल टॉक्स अबाउट एड्रेसिंग दैट इनकम इनइक्वालिटी. ये काफ़ी सारे मेथड्स सजेस्ट करते हैं जिससे हम कम कर सकते हैं इस इनकम इनइक्वालिटी को. बिफोर आई टेल यू द मेजर दिस आर्टिकल इज सजेस्टिंग, यू गाइस टेल मी इनकम इनइक्वालिटी को कैसे कम किया जा सकता है, जो रिच और पुअर के बीच का डिवाइड है उसको कैसे ब्रिज किया जा सकता है. What are some ways to reduce income inequality? Let's do some critical thinking before we get into the article. I am waiting for responses in the chat box. What are your ideas when it comes to reducing income inequality? Employment to the poor. ओके, सिर्फ पुअर को एम्प्लॉयमेंट देना काफ़ी है या पुअर को अपस्किल भी करना पड़ेगा? क्रिएटिंग मोर जॉब्स. ओके, टैक्सेशन रिफॉर्म्स, प्रोवाइडिंग इक्वल वेजेस या इक्विटेबल वेजेस? आई थिंक द बेटर वर्ड हियर इज इक्विटेबल. इक्वल तो फिर जो बंदा 4 घंटे काम कर रहा है उसको भी 100 रुपये, जो 40 घंटे काम कर रहा है उसको भी 100 रुपये, जो इलेक्ट्रीशियन है उसको भी 100 रुपये, जो प्लम्बर है उसको भी 100 रुपये, और जो कोडर है उसको भी 100 रुपये. ऐसे चल जाएगा? रूट लेवल ट्रेनिंग एंड स्किल डेवलपमेंट, एब्सोल्युटली दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ग्राउंड लेवल पर लोगों को ट्रेन करना, अपस्किल करना. ठीक है, बढ़िया. तो देखो ये आर्टिकल 4-5 चीज़ों को एड्रेस करता है. मैं आपको बताता हूँ क्या क्या ये आर्टिकल बात कर रहा है. फर्स्टली द आर्टिकल टॉक्स अबाउट प्रोग्रेसिव इनकम टैक्स. ठीक है, प्रोग्रेसिव इनकम टैक्स क्या होता है अभी हम समझते हैं. सेकेंडली ये आर्टिकल बात कर रहे हैं ऑन फोकसिंग अबाउट एजुकेशन एंड स्किल. Thirdly, the article is talking about establishing fair labor laws. ठीक है. Fourthly, the article is talking about investment in infrastructure, investment in job creation. And fifthly, the article is talking about taking contribution from the existing wealthy people, rich people. तो ये 5 फ्रंट्स पे ये आर्टिकल एड्रेस कर रहा है इनकम इनइक्वालिटी को. 5 वेरी गुड पॉइंट्स. फर्स्ट पॉइंट की बात करते हैं, विच इज प्रोग्रेसिव इनकम टैक्स. लेट्स कम बैक टू आवर स्क्रीन. या तो प्रोग्रेसिव इनकम टैक्स क्या होता है? प्रोग्रेसिव इनकम टैक्स सिंपली मीन्स कि जो ज्यादा पैसे कमा रहा है उसको ज्यादा टैक्स देना पड़ेगा, जो कम पैसे कमा रहा है उसको कम टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. सो इफ अ पर्सन इज अर्निंग 100 rupees, he is paying let's say 5% tax. Person earning 1000 rupees is paying 10% tax. Person earning 10,000 rupees is paying let's say 20% tax, and so on. These are hypothetical numbers which shows that as your income progresses, your tax slab also progresses. So this is progressive taxation. इनकम पे प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स होना चाहिए. नाउ दिस इज ट्रू टू अ सर्टेन एक्सटेंट, बट उस तरीके से नहीं है जिस तरीके से होना चाहिए. क्यों? क्योंकि प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन आप सिर्फ डायरेक्ट टैक्स पे लगा सकते हो, आप प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस पे नहीं लगा सकते. एंड दैट इज वेयर द डिवाइड डीपन्स. व्हाट दिस मीन्स इज, आप जो डायरेक्ट इनकम हो रही है लोगों की, जो डायरेक्ट इनकम टैक्स आप पे करते हो, उसमें तो आप प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन कर रहे हो कि जो बंदा लेट से इस 6 लाख से लेके 10 लाख तक कमा रहा है उसको एक्स टैक्स देना है, जो 10 लाख से बियॉन्ड कमा रहा है उसको एक्स प्लस 10% टैक्स देना है, एंड सो ऑन. बट आर वी एड्रेसिंग द इशू ऑफ डिफरेंस इन इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस? अगर आप मार्केट जाते हो ब्रेड खरीदने, तो ब्रेड अगर 30 रुपीज की है, उसमें अगर 5 रुपीज जीएसटी जा रहा है, तो आपको भी ब्रेड 30 रुपीज की मिलेगी. जो बंदा 1 लाख पर मंथ कमा रहा है उसको भी ब्रेड 30 रुपीज की मिलेगी. जो 10 लाख पर मंथ कमा रहा है उसको भी ब्रेड 30 रुपीज की मिलेगी. पॉइंट इज, उन सबको 5 रुपीज जीएसटी या 5 रुपीज इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. एंड ये तो मैंने बस एक ब्रेड का एग्जांपल दिया. दिस गोज ऑन फॉर एवरीथिंग. दिस गोज ऑन फॉर बाइंग अ व्हीकल, दिस गोज ऑन फॉर बाइंग अ हाउस, दिस गोज ऑन फॉर बाइंग एनीथिंग which has GST on it, which has an indirect taxation on it. It could be petrol. Everyone has to buy petrol at whatever the price is, at the same price, 100 rupees per liter, for example. So the rich would also buy the petrol at 100 rupees per liter and give, let's say, 20 rupees GST, जितना पेट्रोल पे जा रहा है, and so would the poor. तो ये एक जो डिवाइड है प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन का, जो इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स पे नहीं लग सकता, is an issue which the article addresses. Secondly, the article talks about education and skill. Now this is quite self-explanatory कि कैसे education and skill can help bridge the divide between your income inequality. The more educated people are, the more skilled people are, the more ready they are to take up jobs, but not just take up jobs but also to create jobs. And this would reduce your unemployment. If unemployment is reduced, your poverty is also reduced and your income inequality is also reduced. So all of this is directly linked. Thirdly, the article is talking about fair labor laws. Now, what are labor laws and how they should be fair? Basically, laws like laws on minimum wages. Someone was saying that there should be equal wages. Before equal wages, there should be minimum wages. कि minimum इतना तो मिलेगा ही आपको अगर आप एक particular काम कर रहे हो या कोई भी particular काम कर रहे हो. So minimum wages is something which is important. Then safety and security of the laborers. ठीक है, जिस पे काफी ज्यादा बात नहीं होती. इंश्योरेंस अबाउट द लेबरर्स, टेकिंग केयर ऑफ देयर फैमिलीज इन केस ऑफ अ क्राइसिस. ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स should be there in fair labor laws for everyone. Then fourthly, the article is talking about what? The article is also talking about investment in infrastructure. तो infrastructure में invest करोगे आप तो there would be more inflow of funds. There would be again more job creation, and again same chain goes. Then lastly, they talk about contribution of the super rich. तो ये जो super rich लोग हैं, जो billionaires हैं, they should come forward and contribute to the alleviation of poverty. तो ये 5 चीजें हैं जो आर्टिकल इनिशियली एड्रेस करता है. Let's look at the article. Let's understand what the article is saying in detail. टेक ऑन द चैलेंज ऑफ राइजिंग इनकम इनइक्वालिटी. ठीक है, तो ये हमने कर लिया. फर्स्ट, प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्सेशन. सेकंड, एजुकेशन एंड स्किल डेवलपमेंट. he's saying it's not about stealing from the rich to pay the poor. It's about using tax money to improve health, education, skill development and environment. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हम सिर्फ अमीरों से छीन लेना चाहते हैं, हम उसको यूज करना चाहते हैं to improve it for everyone. Third is fair labor laws, minimum wages, safety, security, child labor exploitation. Then investment in infrastructure, assure inclusion and sustainability, water, sanitation, forest, energy. तो ये सारा infrastructure भी देने की जरूरत है. Fifth is a contribution of super rich. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett began a global campaign called the Giving Pledge for super rich to donate more than half their wealth in order to benefit the public. As of 2023, 235 super rich people in 28 countries have committed $600 billion for public good. So ये एक अच्छा initiative है कि the rich people are coming forward. Now, they're talking about the tax. However, it applies only to the super rich and large asset transfer. This tax has been proposed by several people in past in India. The World Inequality Lab says that in India, share of top 1% in national income is among the highest in the world. And India is today more unequal as a society than it was under British rule. Is that acceptable? मतलब ब्रिटिशर्स के टाइम पे इतनी inequality नहीं थी. आज जितना पैसा top 1% लोगों के पास है उतना ब्रिटिशर्स के टाइम पे भी नहीं था. About inclusion and equity. It's not a debate about increasing or introducing new tax for middle class, the rich or super rich. It's about locating the resources needed to lift millions more out of poverty and joblessness and do this in ways that encourage value addition through production and efficiency, quality and consumption, as well as inclusion, sustainability, dignity and justice. तो ये कह रहे हैं कि क्या स्ट्रैटेजीज हम यूज कर सकते हैं टू क्रिएट रेजिलियंस इन दीज अनसर्टेन टाइम्स. देयर इज नो सिल्वर बुलेट, यानी कि देयर इज नो वन स्टॉप सॉल्यूशन and none is suggested. The need is for reflection and a policy framework that can ensure growth with justice. Possible option available through learning from global experience and drawing on India's creative and innovation abilities. उसके बाद वो बात कर रहे हैं गांधीयन मॉडल की, वेयर यू वर्क टुवर्ड्स नर्चरिंग लोकल टैलेंट, नर्चरिंग लोकल रिसोर्सेज, लोकल प्रोडक्शन, बेसिकली मेक इन इंडिया की बात कह लो. जैसे गांधी जी अपना वो खुद बनाते थे खाकी एंड चरखा, तो वही चीज़ कह रहा है दैट कैन बी अप्लाइड ऑन अ लार्जर स्केल. पुश करें हमारे एमएसएमईज को, स्मॉल मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस को. इंडिया हैज 800 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स विद यूनिक क्लाइमेट, नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज and a talent to build 800 production centers for a variety of goods and centers. It means 800 digital platforms to network as well. Where the future lies, future jobs even in the AI dominated world will come from food, education, health, tourism, manufacturing. Young Indians talent are working across the world. This issue is thus about assessing progress in terms of human and technological development. Future definitely lies in new tech economic model to deliver inclusion, basic human needs, decentralization, and values happiness from sharing, caring, as opposed to vulgarity of conspicuous consumption. Conspicuous is sort of evil consumption, basically too much materialism. Okay, so this is how you address income inequality. All right, that is the article for today. And let's come back to our analysis. All right. Next is a very factual article. Defense proposal को सेंटर ने नोट दे दिया. It's a defense proposal of 1.44 लाख करोड़. डिफेंस एक्विजिशन काउंसिल की हम बात कर चुके हैं. इसमें कौन कौन होता है हम बात कर चुके हैं. It has granted approval for procurement of 7 stealth frigates and future ready combat vehicles to replace the main battle tanks, air defense fire control radars and Dornier aircrafts and patrol vessels. ठीक है, तो आर्टिकल में सारी फैक्चुअल डिटेल्स है कि क्या क्या हम प्रोक्योर कर रहे हैं, कैसे कैसे प्रोक्योर कर रहे हैं. You all can go back and check out this article. It's just a factual article. There's not much to analyze in this particular article. हम नेक्स्ट आर्टिकल की बात करते हैं जो थोड़ा सा एनालिटिकल है, which is regarding corporate tax and wages. Now this is also linked to income inequality to a certain extent, जिसकी हम बात कर रहे थे कि क्या कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट कर देने से लोगों की वेजेस, लोगों की इनकम बढ़ जाएगी. What do you guys think? Yes or no? कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स क्या होता है? सबसे पहले कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स इज द टैक्स विच इज पेड बाय कॉर्पोरेशंस एंड कंपनीज. जैसे आप लोग अपनी इनकम पे इनकम टैक्स देते हैं इंडिविजुअल्स, ऐसे कंपनीज अपने प्रॉफिट पे अपनी इनकम पे कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स देते हैं. तो कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स रिसेंटली हमने कम कर दिया था, 30% से 22% कर दिया था. टू वी हैड दिस अजम्पशन दैट दिस वुड इंक्रीज द वेजेस, क्योंकि अगर इनके पास ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट बचेगा तो वो प्रॉफिट आगे जाके ट्रिकल डाउन होके वेजेस में रिफ्लेक्ट होगा, लोगों की इनकम बढ़ेगी, लोगों की वेजेस बढ़ेगी. बट डू यू थिंक कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट कैन इंक्रीज वेजेस? येस और नो? व्हाट डू यू गाइस थिंक? येस और नो? Alia is saying maybe. Anyone else who wants to take a shot at whether corporate tax would increase wages or not? The article says that इस वजह से हुआ नहीं है, कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट करने से वेजेस इंक्रीज हुई नहीं है. क्यों नहीं इंक्रीज हुई उसको समझते हैं. सो देखो, कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट करने से क्या होगा? यू आर एसेंशियली ट्राइंग टू इंक्रीज द प्रॉफिट्स ऑफ द कंपनी so that you incentivize the company to probably do more investments, create more jobs and increase the wages of the people company working in those companies. ठीक है, ये ऑब्जेक्टिव थे आपके कि इन्वेस्टमेंट ज्यादा होगी, जॉब क्रिएशन ज्यादा होगा, वेजेस ज्यादा होगा अगर कंपनीज के पास ज्यादा प्रॉफिट्स होंगे। बट कंपनीज ऑलरेडी अपने प्रॉफिट्स कम शो करती हैं, कम टैक्स पे करती हैं, एंड ये जो प्रॉफिट कम शो करने की वजह से कम कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स जाता है, इसका एक नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट भी है। इसका नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट ये है कि गवर्नमेंट के पास कम रिसोर्सेज आते हैं, गवर्नमेंट के पास कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स का कलेक्शन अगर कम है, इस आर्टिकल में बात हुई है कि 1 लाख करोड़ का कलेक्शन का लॉस हुआ कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट करने से। फिर ये 1 लाख करोड़ का जो डेफिसिट हो गया, ये कैसे गवर्नमेंट वसूल करेगी, ये कैसे गवर्नमेंट बैलेंस आउट करेगी? दूसरे तरीकों से, या तो डायरेक्ट टैक्सेस से इनकम टैक्स बढ़ जाएगा, या फिर इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस से चीज़ों पे जीएसटी बढ़ जाएगा, इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ जाएगा। तो इस वजह से डायरेक्टली जो है लोगों की, हो सकता है वेजेस बढ़े या ना बढ़े, बट लोगों के एक्सपेंसेस डेफिनेटली बढ़ जाएंगे। एंड वेजेस भी ये लोग कह रहे हैं कि बढ़ नहीं रही है। द गवर्नमेंट हैज इन अ वे pass on the responsibility to reduce the income inequality on the companies कि भाई हम आपके पास ज्यादा पैसे छोड़ दे रहे हैं, अब आप लोगों की इनकम बढ़ा देना, आप लोगों के वेजेस बढ़ा देना। बट द कंपनीज ऑब्वियसली वर्क ऑन अ कैपिटलिस्टिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ऑन अ मटीरियलिस्टिक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। वो ज्यादा से ज्यादा अपनी इनकम बढ़ाना चाहेंगे या फिर एम्प्लॉयज की इनकम बढ़ाना चाहेंगे। सो दिस हैज डेफिनेटली नॉट वर्कड रियली वेल। एंड ये आर्टिकल पे चल के देखते हैं आर्टिकल क्या कह रहा है। Tax cuts on profits do have immediate effects on income distribution. A reduction in profit taxes boosts the profits on already invested capital without necessarily increasing future investment, thus benefiting private capital while showing little to no benefits to wage earners. ठीक है, तो जो कैपिटल बचा, जो प्रॉफिट बचा, वो उन्होंने आगे के लिए बचा लिया कि भाई अभी जितनी मर्जी कमाई कर लो, आगे पता नहीं कमाई हो पाए ना हो पाए, एंड वेज अर्नर्स को कोई बेनिफिट हुआ ही नहीं। यूएस का इन्होंने एग्जांपल दिया कि इफेक्ट्स ऑफ टैक्स कट्स इन द यूएस। तो यूएस में क्या हुआ? यूएस में भी इन्होंने कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कम किया। व्हाइल द एक्ट अफेक्टेड पर्सनल एंड कॉर्पोरेट टैक्सेस, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट सिग्निफिकेंट प्रोविजंस वाज रिडक्शन ऑफ टॉप टैक्स रेट ऑन कॉर्पोरेट इनकम टैक्स फ्रॉम 35 to 21. Proponents held that the move would ensure that companies invest more, leading to increase in growth and employment. New investment will also cause an upgradation in technology, leading to an increase in wages. तो रिसेंट जो पब्लिकेशन आया है उसमें बताया है कि they find that the cuts did have a positive impact on investment with a range in going from 8% to 14%. Studies show that based on investment trend, there would be likely to be a fall in investment if tax cuts were not passed. This is not to say that tax cuts were an unambiguously positive outcome. This is a relatively small increase in investment, implying a long-run increase in GDP of only 0.9%, an increase in annual wages of less than 1,000 per worker. तो ये कह रहे हैं बेसिकली कि वर्कर्स के लिए उतना ज़्यादा बेनिफिट नहीं हुआ इसमें, बस इन्वेस्टमेंट थोड़ा सा बढ़ गया। On tax cuts in India, tax rates for corporates were cut down in September 2019 from 30 to 22, and that of new companies from 25 to 15. This resulted in a tax revenue loss of 1 lakh crore. This tax could nevertheless prove to be of net benefit to the economy if it resulted in an increase in employment of investment. Pandemic led to severe dislocations in labor market. Unemployment has reduced since then, with labor force participation rising. However, the corporate sector has had little to do with this increase. मतलब corporate की वजह से नहीं हुआ ये. Much of the increase in employment has come in form of insecure work with unpaid family work, showing significant increase in rural sector. According to PLFS, the share of workers with regular wage employment at all India level has fallen. तो wages तो है कम हो गई भाई, ठीक है, wages की जो growth है वो भी कम हो गई, which is barely above the rate of inflation. In real terms, rural wages for regular employment have reduced with relative stagnation for urban wages. This is not to say that there has been no growth. Corporate tax collections have shown healthy growth since pandemic. However, it has little to do with effect on employment of wages. तो जिस आर्टिकल का यही है कि अब क्या करना है, टैक्स कट्स वुड नॉट नेसेसरली बूस्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट इफ कैपिटल बिलीव्स दैट प्रॉस्पेक्ट ऑफ फ्यूचर आर अनसर्टेन. Tax cuts have led to shifting of burden of tax collection from corporates to individuals. तो burden आप उल्टा individual पे आ गया कि भाई आप अपनी तरीके से अपने पैसे बचाओ जितना बचा सकते हो. Tax cuts on profits do have immediate effect on income distribution. A reduction in profit tax boosts profits on already invested capital, thus benefiting private capital while showing little to no benefits to wage earners. ठीक है, तो बेसिकली आर्टिकल का क्रक्स यही है कि इससे कोई फायदा नहीं हो रहा. कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स कट से वेजेस इंक्रीज नहीं हो रहे. यू विल हैव टू लुक एट अदर वेज to increase wages for the people, and that is the article for you. Let's come back to our analysis and do our vocabulary. Okay, so the first vocabulary word for the day is quelling. Quelling means putting an end to something, mostly a rebellion or another disorder, typically by use of force. तो किसी चीज को क्रश कर देना, किसी rebellion को क्रश कर देना is called quelling. Synonyms is end, finish, put down. Antonyms is assisting or aiding. Soldiers were sent in to quell the riots, to put an end to the riots. So quelling is your first word. The second word is extemporaneous, which means spoken or done without preparation. So this comes from your word extempore. Some of you must have done this in school, an extempore, just speaking on a topic without any preparation. So synonyms are impromptu, improvisational, spontaneous. Antonyms are prepared, rehearsed, premeditated. She made an extemporaneous speech on the ceremony. The third word is aspersion. Aspersion means an unfair criticism or false accusation meant to damage another's reputation. Criticism, insult, insinuation. Let's keep the debate focused on issues and try to avoid casting aspersions on one another. Okay, so these are your vocabulary words: aspersion, extemporaneous, and quelling. That brings us to the end of today's Hindu analysis. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If not, let's end today's session and I'll see you in another session tomorrow. No questions? Any questions, guys? Okay, that's all for today's session then. Thank you so much for attending, participating. Do like this video if this was helpful and share it, comment on it, subscribe to the channel. You guys know the drill. That's all for today. What is the topic for Menti quiz? Let's discuss on that tomorrow. I'll go through your comments as well and I'll look at what topics can be important and I'll tell you the topic tomorrow. Okay, chalo. Thank you so much. Keep learning, keep preparing. Bye bye, guys. Take care. Signing off.